Now, according to a survey conducted in early 2020 by the NAEP, they looked at the recent reading statistics, and what they found is about 35% of fourth graders and about 34% of eighth graders performed at or above proficiency levels based on state averages. And the age group of American 9 to 13-year-olds who say they read for fun on an almost daily basis has dropped from nearly a decade ago and are at the lowest level since at least the mid 1980s. So we've seen so many students fail to make this leap from surface level decoding to deep level comprehension. So a bridge must be built from learning to read to transition students from reading to learn. So reading, is all about constructing meaning as well. And for proficient readers, this is something that you really don't see. It's all happening in their head. And what you see on the left-hand side are the contributing factors, none of which is new. We know proficient readers have access to background knowledge, are able to code and to comprehend the words they are reading. And also they're able to do what's called syntax synergy. Now, that's the idea that the reader reads and internalizes the meaning of each sentence and then decides how ideas and events are connected to each other within the sentences. We know proficient readers have a strong vocabulary bank and they can do some inferential thinking so they can come with big ideas that the author is trying to convey. And for students who are reading fluently, meaning decoding really well, maybe 1,000 words per minute, we don't know. However, for students who could decode quickly, as passive consumers, when you ask them what's the main idea, often they go, I don't know, I was busy reading it. So as teachers, we respond by teaching our learners a variety of strategies from inferencing to visualization to support that active construction of meaning so they can build these deep structures on their own. If a reader lacks these skills and strategies needed to construct meaning, they may be faced with what we call cognitive overload, and making meaning will suffer. So what do we mean by cognitive overload? Well, we have to kind of go back into a little psychology of what's called working memory. Working memory is all about how much the brain can process at a time. So when a task requires us to use maximum capacity of our limited working memory, we say we are at high cognitive load. However, if the cognitive load is too high, that is, if the task requirements exceed our working memory, then we have what's called cognitive overload. Cognitive overload limits learning and it prohibits the reader from engaging with meaning. So if you've ever listened to an emerging reader, this reader has exceeded the limitations of their working memory because they lack automaticity in phonics and word recognition. So when they experience cognitive overload, they are trying to mediate all over all these bits of information while decoding simultaneously. And it takes up a lot of cognitive space to do all these tasks. When we ask students to summarize, they often plagiarize or they just copy the text directly. Students can and should be encouraged to use multiple maps to analyze the content the author is trying to convey. Reading is truly thinking guided by print. And by building these deep cognitive structures for reading comprehension, we lower the cognitive load and we grant students the freedom to engage deeply with the meaning behind the print. We want our students to become active consumers and be able to access the content just like everybody else.